One thing I'm going to assume whenever you are looking at this video is that you watched the functions video, but you didn't actually change the spreadsheet. You just used it as information. If not, just go ahead and undo or delete what you have going on in the average column so that we can all look the same. We're going to insert the function for an average here. And if you've done this and you don't want to delete, you can just fast forward. In order to insert the average, you can insert it in multiple ways, as the previous video told you. But I think the easiest way to do your most basic functions is to go up here to the right hand side to the auto sum button, pull the arrow next to it down, and go to average. When you click on it, it's going to automatically put the blinking ants around the series that it thinks that you're wanting to use. If it's not correct, you can highlight what you would like to use instead. If it is, which ours is, we just hit enter, and it goes ahead and it automatically populates that same thing into the rest of the table because we had it formatted as a table. So it's another reason why formatting as a table is a nice thing to do when you have a block of numbers that you're working with. If you had gone to column J and you had typed in average and you had gone in and put the function in, it's not reading it as part of this table because you had that blank column in between. And so at that point it wouldn't automatically copy down that average function. I'm going to show you that by going to f of x, typing in average, hitting go, this is another way that you can find functions, double clicking on the average, and then it wants to know what range you want to highlight. I'm just going to highlight on top of that and go back to my Excel spreadsheet and highlight the cells that I would want to average. And notice I wouldn't want to average the average inside of my function. Then I hit OK, and it's just going to put it in that first one. It's not going to automatically copy it down. If at that point I wanted to copy down that function, I'd go to my fill handle and pull down, and then it would populate those cells with the average function. Now I don't need this column at all. It's superfluous. I don't need a repeat of what I have here. So I'm going to right click on J and hit delete, and it goes away immediately. We've done almost everything we can on the home tab for this, so we're going to move along, and I'm going to show you a couple things in some of the other tabs. First of all, we can go to the insert tab. This would be where you could insert a pivot table if you wish, pictures, clip art, shapes and smart art, charts, links, text. We'll come back to this later. Go to the page layout tab. Themes are really neat. Themes look at what you currently have, and if you hover over it, it's going to change the way that your table looks. It changes the text and the color based on predetermined themes. So it's a quick and easy way to change the formatting of a table that you have selected. You just click on it when you like it, hover over it to see what it changes. The colors will also change the color scheme, something that you've got going. You can just move right off of it if you don't want to change it. Fonts are going to change the default fonts going on in your spreadsheet. Effects allow you to do different things, and it's really one of those things where you just have to look at it and try to determine what it's doing. You can also change the margins in the page setup group from the page layout tab, and this is the default, but you could pick wide or narrow or even customize your margins. Orientation is the way the page is. Now when you're dealing with information that is wider than it is tall, you want to choose landscape. Landscape is usually far better for spreadsheets than portrait is. And one thing I just realized is that I don't have print preview in my quick access toolbar, and I want print preview in my quick access toolbar, so I'm going to add that really quickly. So this is a print preview, and now you can see what landscape does. If I hit close print preview and I go back to my orientation to make it portrait and I hit print preview, you can see that now my data does not fit on one page. This column is going to a second page. I'm going to show you how I can fix that. One way would be to make it landscape again. A different way is to force the width and the height to be 1 by 1. On this scale to fit area, you can force the width to be 1 page and the height to be 1 page or 2 pages or 9 pages or however many pages you want. But I'm going to force it to be 1 page by 1 page. Now when I hit print preview, you'll see that even though it's in portrait, it's forcing it to be 1 page. I'm going to close my print preview. However, I still want it to be landscape, so I'm changing my orientation to landscape so that whenever it does it, because when you force it to be 1 page, it's going to make all of the font shrink. So I want it to be as wide as possible to make it easier to see. If you wanted to see your margins, you can click here to show margins. You can also do things with page setup here. And this brings up the box that you were probably used to seeing in Office 2003 that goes through margins, the header and the footer, and the sheet. And with the margins tab here, you could center horizontally and vertically, and that's going to take this information and it's going to force it to be centered on the page. You can also do a print area. Print area is when you set a specific area to print. So whenever I was showing you this a second ago, the print preview, it's showing everything. And I'm actually going to change my page setup back to where it's not centered vertically on my page, just horizontally. So you can see that you see from John Smith down to Carla Edwards and all of their data. I'm going to hit close. I don't want to see them. I just want to see Terry Anderson's information. So I'm just going to highlight Terry Anderson. I'm going to go to my print area and I'm going to set that print area. Now when I hit print preview, all you see is Terry Anderson. If you do that, you print and then you want to take it away, you just go back to print area and clear it. And now it would show everything again. You can control breaks and the way your background looks. And another great thing is you can do print titles here. Print titles are what's going to be repeated on each page. So for instance, you'd go to the print titles, and if you wanted a couple rows, like for instance student ID, first name, last name, this row 2 and the row 1 to repeat on every page, if you had a full class of students, then you can click on this box, highlight 2 and 1, click on it again, and it would repeat columns 1 and 2 on the top. You can also have it repeat things on the left. So if you always wanted to see the student ID, you could make it always print student ID, first name and last name at the left. Now when I clicked on A, it wanted to select everything because this is merged and centered, so it can't separate it. And I hit OK. And you can't tell, I'd go to print preview and show you, but because I don't have a ton of information, it's not going to show you what that print preview would do, but it would be repeating these on the page 2 or page 3. Here, the grid lines and headings. Grid lines are the lines going on between the rows and columns. If I uncheck view, you don't see them anymore. This looks like a white piece of paper. I can also choose to print them. Right now when I hit print preview, you don't see any of the grid lines. You see the colors in the columns, but you don't see any of the grid lines. You also don't see the A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I were to check, print the grid lines, and then also check to print headings, and I go to print preview, you're now seeing A, B, C, D, E. You're also seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you see all of the little grid lines in between the cells. Whether or not you want to see those is completely up to you, but those are your sheet options, and this is all found on the page layout tab of your Excel 2007. You also have a formulas tab. The formulas tab is yet another way to insert formulas, and we'll actually come back to this later. You've got the data tab, which would allow you to sort, do some filters. This is also where you could do remove duplicates. There's some other things like subtotaling, grouping, ungrouping. The review tab has spelling. It allows you to add a comment. So Carla here actually goes by her middle name of K. That adding a comment, now I click off of it, would put this little red triangle in the corner. And if you were to hover over that cell, it would pop up your comment, so you can make that note. You could also tell it to show all the comments and it would automatically show them for you. This also allows you to protect your sheets, protect your workbooks, and additionally, if you were to share protect parts, it would allow certain users to edit ranges. View would do the page layout view. Page break preview is actually going to show you how the page is breaking up. So if you wanted a couple columns and rows to show, even if they didn't have data, you could change it. Go back to normal. You can actually do some zooming. Freezing panes. Now freezing panes is really useful. What freezing panes allows you to do is, no matter how long your spreadsheet might be, and I'm going to zoom back in on this for you, it would allow you to see certain cells. If I were to click on D3, it's going to freeze anything above what box I have selected and anything to the left of the box that I have selected. So I click freeze panes, and it's going to ask you, do you want to freeze the panes, freeze just the top row, or freeze just the first column? I'm going to hit freeze panes, and it actually brings this little black line showing you where the panes are frozen. If I were to move my mouse down, you'll see how you always see 2, but now I'm in row 24. I'm using my scroll pad on my mouse. You can also scroll to the right, and you'll notice that test 1 and 2 are now hidden, but you can still see test 3, but you also see columns A, B, and C, and they'll even go away. So that's what freeze panes is. This also has some macros information. The developer tab was something that we added earlier, and that was something I checked from that Excel options on the Office button. And the reason we did that was so that we could see all the VB information, the ability to record or show macros using relative references, macro security. And if you are interested in learning more about the developer tab, there are a million tutorials available online. And then there's the add-ins, and then again the design tab was where we would be designing our table.